You're 7 years old, barefoot in a tangle of Parisian alleys. The hem of your smock soaked with yesterday's rain and today's spilled wine. Your mother died the winter before consumption, they said. Your father disappeared months ago. Perhaps conscripted, perhaps imprisoned, perhaps simply vanished into the smoke of the city like so many poor men before him. You survive by snatching crusts from market carts, sleeping beneath stairwells, and running fast enough that the guards can't catch you. Until one day they do. But instead of beating you or dragging you off to the city dungeon, they take you. Somewhere far stranger, you are one of dozens of children ragged, pale, trembling, shoved into the back of a cart bound for Versailles. You don't know the name, not yet. But soon you will learn to say it with awe, fear, and confusion all at once. Because the Palace of Versailles is not just a residence, it is a world, a theater, a dream gilded in gold, and it is about to consume you. By the late 17th century, Louis XIV Soleil, the Sun King, had transformed a modest hunting lodge into the most extravagant palace on earth. Versailles was no longer simply a royal seat. It was a machine of control, a symbol of absolute power, and a place where appearances mattered more than reality. Among its many inhabitants, nobles, courtiers, artists, spies, were children, dozens of them. Some were the sons and daughters of aristocrats raised to serve and dazzle, but others were orphans, plucked from the streets and convents and charity homes, brought into the palace not out of kindness, but out of necessity. The Sun King's court needed playmates for the royal children, servants small enough to be unobtrusive, choir boys with voices that could pierce heaven, decorative, obedient innocents who could adorn the stage of absolutism like porcelain dolls. But beneath the powdered wigs and velvet breeches, a darker truth festered. These children, orphans of plague, war, and neglect, were entering a world they could neither understand nor escape. They were becoming tools in a system that prized beauty over being, obedience over autonomy, spectacle over soul. Your arrival at Versailles is nothing like you imagined. If you had imagined anything at all, you expected another prison, another worse if. Instead, you are bathed. Your lice are scraped away, your clothes are burned, you are given silks, real food, a bed softer than any you've ever touched, and then the lessons begin. Not lessons of reading or writing, not yet, but of bowing, of silence, of standing perfectly still for hours, of smiling when you're frightened, of speaking only when spoken to, of disappearing in plain sight. You are taught that everything about you must change. Your accent, your posture, even your name. You're no longer Petit Jean from Rue du Cheval. No, you're Jean-Baptiste de la Loire. A name conjured out of nothing. A noble fiction. The palace transforms you. And in doing so, it begins to erase you to the outside world. This seems like salvation. Pamphlets printed in Paris speak of the king's generosity. How orphans, plucked from destitution, now dine within golden halls, sing beneath frescoed ceilings, and sleep under the same roof as princes. But they do not speak of the cost. They do not speak of the boy who cries every night for a mother he barely remembers. They do not speak of the girl forced to dance for courtiers, her shoes bleeding with each curtsy, praised for her grace while she sways from exhaustion. They do not speak of the moments after the candles are extinguished, when small hands clutch bedsheets in the dark, praying no door will creak open, because Versailles is not only a palace, it is a stage, and everyone, especially the children, are actors. You are placed in the Maison des Enfants de la Cour, the house of the children of the court. A gilded prison here, every child is molded for a role. Page, dancer, servant, entertainer. Some will become singers for the king's chapel. Others will fan noble women in the gardens. A few might be noticed taken under the wing of a duchess, a marquise, perhaps even the king himself. But attention is not always a blessing, because in Versailles, attention comes with appetite. Some of the nobles do not see children. Playthings, objects, you see it in the eyes of the older girls, those who no longer flinch when touched, who have learned to smile through the nausea, to curtsy while dying inside. You are 7. You do not understand everything. But you understand enough. You learn quickly. Silence is safety. Invisibility is protection. Obedience is survival. There is one boy, older than you, Theodore. He has been here 3 years. His hair is always combed, his uniform perfect. He knows how to recite Virgil and how to flirt with the chambermaids. Everyone says he will be favored, but one morning, he is gone. The official word is that he has been promoted, sent to the Royal Academy in Paris. But the way the headmaster avoids your gaze tells you otherwise. Another boy whispers that Theodore tried to run, that they found him near the outer gardens, that he was dragged back, beaten, vanished. No one speaks his name again. And so you learn the final rule. Do not dream of escape. Versailles has high walls, but its true prison lies not in bricks or guards. It lies in the transformation of your very self. By the time you realize you want to leave, there is nothing left of the child who once could. The months pass, seasons shift beyond the palace walls, but inside, time moves strangely. Every day is wrapped in gold leaf, in etiquette, in performance. You wake before the sun, you practice curtsies or sword drills depending on your role, and you eat meals prepared with the scraps of the nobles' feasts. You are always dressed well, but you own nothing. You are surrounded by music, but you speak only when permitted. You are in the presence of kings, but you are not seen. You begin to forget the sound of your mother's voice. You no longer remember what the cobblestones of Paris feel like beneath your feet. Instead, your life is shaped by marble corridors, flickering candlelight, and whispered warnings from older children who've learned to endure. There is a girl named Elise. She is 9 years old and was taken from a convent. Her parents died in the famine last winter. She sings for the courtiers during afternoon salons. Her voice is praised for its clarity like crystal, they say. But you have seen her vomit after each performance. You've seen the tremble in her hands before she is led into a nobleman's chambers to perform a private aria. You've heard her cry into her pillow at night, so softly that even the stone walls cannot echo it. She once told you she wanted to be a nun. Now she cannot bear the sight of a cross. By age 10, you're fluent in the secret languages of the court. Not Latin or Greek, though you learn those too, but the real languages. How to read a nobleman's glance. How to know when a smile is dangerous. How to disappear into a room even while standing at its center. You are told this is refinement, discipline, civilization, but you know it for what it is, survival. You've become skilled at moving like a shadow, at pretending, at smiling through humiliation. You watch new children arrive, fresh from the streets or orphanages, and you know exactly how they will fall. Some, like Jules, fight. They resist every rule. They scream when forced into new clothes. They shout their real names, as if that alone will tether them to who they once were. But within weeks, Jules is silent. His head always bowed. He no longer answers to anything at all. Others, like Lucien, adapt quickly. They're bright, charming, obedient. They rise fast, favored by this courtier or that. They become admired. But admiration here is the first step toward being consumed. Every Sunday you attend Mass in the royal chapel. It is a spectacle. Organs thunder, choir boys sing. The king sits in his private gallery above the congregation, his presence godlike. You kneel, you stand, you bawl on cue, but for you, it is not God you serve, it is the Sun King. Louis XIV is more than a monarch. He is a force of nature, an orb around which the entire court revolves. When he enters a room, everyone freezes, not from fear, but from worship. Even his illegitimate children are treated like royalty, and you, child of no one, are expected to believe that being near him is the greatest honor imaginable. You don't hate him. You don't even fear him. You simply understand that your life, your pain, your voice, none of it matters beneath his radiant gaze. Because in Versailles, light blinds more than it reveals. The palace is full of ghosts, not the dead, but the forgotten. The boys who vanished from the rolls, the girls who fell from favor, the children who smiled too little, cried too much, or simply became inconvenient. They do not get burials or goodbyes. They are swept out like dust, replaced by new faces, new names. And you wonder when it is your turn to disappear, who will remember you? There are no portraits of children like you on Versailles walls, no statues, no symphonies written in your honor, only silence sometimes. A noble woman will weep over your shoulder and call you darling while drunk on champagne. She will press coins into your hand and whisper that you remind her of her own son, long dead. You will thank her. You will smile. You will bow. Then she will forget your name before morning. Your only refuge is the attic, high above the hall of mirrors. Beyond the reach of the chandeliers and ceremonies is a crawl space where dust clings to cobwebs and forgotten trunks hold gowns from past generations. Here, no one looks for you. Here you are not expected to perform. Sometimes Elise joins you. You say nothing. You sit beside each other in the quiet. It is the only place in the palace where silence doesn't feel dangerous. It feels like memory. One night, while hiding in the attic, you find a small box tucked behind a broken chair. Inside, a tiny wooden doll with its arms missing. A scrap of parchment with the name Colette scrawled in faded ink. No date, no explanation. It's just the artifact of a child long gone. You do not know who she was. But you hold the doll as if it matters, because in a palace obsessed with grandeur, it is the broken, forgotten things that feel most real. You leave the doll where you found it, as a kind of grave. Mark her a monument no one will see. You are 12 now, old enough to know the truth. Young enough to still pretend there is a boy named Adrien who sleeps in the cot beside yours. He is soft-spoken, with a birthmark like a raindrop beneath his eye. You once asked him where he was from, and he said, a place that doesn't exist anymore. Not night. You share stories. Not of your real pasts, those are dangerous, but of imagined worlds, where children are free and kings do not steal names. You speak of rivers no one controls, of homes without marble floors, of mothers who do not vanish in the smoke of memory. In Versailles, imagination is your rebellion, but even that is dangerous. One day, Adrien is summoned by a nobleman, one known for his interest in delicate talents. Adrien does not come back. His bed is made the next morning by one of the servants, neatly, efficiently, as if he'd never been there at all. You ask no questions, because asking questions gets you noticed, and being noticed. In Versailles is often fatal. Once a week, you are allowed to play in the outer gardens, always supervised, always watched to anyone visiting. It would seem like a charming scene, noble children frolicking under gilded statues, laughing by fountains that once ran with rosewater. But your laughter is trained, your games rehearsed. You are told to smile when guests pass. You are told to bow if you see a noble. You are told that Versailles is your home, but you know what real homes feel like, and this place, this enormous, glorious prisoners, anything but. Every day the palace eats someone, not literally, not with teeth or blood, but with etiquette, with expectation, with silence. There is a girl named Therese, 14. Once the favorite of a marquis, she played the viol like no one else. Her fingers danced across the strings like flame. But when the marquise died of fever, Sherry's fell from grace. Number 1 came to her defense. She was reassigned to chamber duties. Within months, she stopped speaking. She wanders the halls now, ghost-like, not dismissed, not acknowledged, just unspoken. This is what happens when the court forgets your name. You become furniture. Sometimes, you dream of escape. You imagine slipping through the servants' gates at dawn, sprinting barefoot through the hedges, crossing rivers, climbing hills, returning to something, anything. But then you remember, there is no one left to return to. Your name is no longer yours. Your language has faded on your tongue. You do not know the roads. You do not know the world. The Sun King has burned it all away. Louis XIV grows older. His wig grows taller, his ceremonies longer. He becomes a god. Not just in name, but in presence. And the older he becomes, the more obsessed he is with control. Versailles becomes more rigid. The rules tighten. The walls thicken. There is a new chamberlain, a man with hollow eyes and an iron cane. He inspects the dormitories at night. Any child found whispering is lashed. Any child caught weeping is locked in the oubliette stone room with no light, no food, no sound. You learn to cry without tears, to scream without sound, to pray. With your breath, one morning, a group of foreign dignitaries visits. You are ordered to stand in the hall of mirrors with the others' ornaments, dressed in velvet. Each of you, a silent testament to the king's grandeur. A German princess walks. Past you, she pauses, looks at you, then says, "This one." His eyes are interesting. She says it in French. You understand her perfectly. The courtiers laugh. Your supervisor smiles. You are taken aside. You are perfumed. You are sent to her chambers that night. You. Do not speak of what happens there. No one does. Years blur. The children around you change. Faces shifting like masks in a play. Some age into roles of minor power scribes. Attendants, guards, others vanish. No one marks the change. There is no ceremony when a child becomes. Only silence. You are 15, and you have become invisible. In a way that grants you freedom, the nobles no longer look at you with hunger. You are too old, too tall. You have outgrown the golden cage butt, not the scars it left. Instead, you are given responsibilities. You serve wine, you clean the salons, you escort guests. Sometimes you are asked to deliver messages with hidden meaning to pass. Notes that can ruin marriages or spark duels. You are not asked if this is what you want, because Versailles has never asked. It only takes one evening. During a masquerade ball, you slip away. You climb the narrow stairs of the servant wing, past locked doors, past the dormitory where your story began. You find the attic. The doll is still there, Colette. You do not know who she was, but you sit beside her doll, and for the first time in months, you allow yourself to cry, not because you are weak, but because you are still human. The year is now 1687. You are 17, no longer a child, no longer a servant. You've become something else, something Versailles created. You are fluent in 5 languages. You can write flawless legal Latin and quote Molière by memory. You know how to adjust the cut of a nobleman's coat to flatter his figure, how to pour wine so the sound is musical, how to light a room so it flatters every guest. You also know how to detect shifts in political winds by watching who stands. Where during court dinner, you know how to lie with grace, how to smile with your mouth, not your eyes, how to be useful. And so, for the first time, the palace gives something back. You were offered a position in the Bureau of Royal Letters, a minor post in the correspondence office, tucked deep inside the East Wing. It's quiet, sheltered. No eyes follow you there. The air is dust and ink. The people, older, serious, too weary to play court games. It's not freedom, but it's not the dormitory. One evening, in the archive room, you come across a folder marked simply Petits Domestiques Disparis. Small servants disappeared. Inside, lists, names, dates, some names you remember. Adrie and Therese Nicholas. Others are strangers. Boys and girls who passed through Versailles like wind through silk. Curtains. Most were given no last names. A few are marked with simple notations. Died, reassigned, dismissed, married off, vanished. There's no folder for mourning. No record of what they suffered, just ink on yellowing paper, fading as fast as memory. You close the folder in place, it back where it was. You do not speak of it, but you remember. One day, you walk past the marble terrace and see a new group of orphans being shepherded through the gates, small, wide-eyed, shivering beneath 2 thin coats. One boy clutches a wooden toy lion missing a leg. You recognize the look in his eyes. You wore it once, and in that moment you understand the palace doesn't end. It feeds on cycles. And you are now part of it, not as prey, but as process. You are 22. When the king passes by you without looking, you have served in his court for 10 years. He does not know your name, he never did, and yet you owe your survival, your education, your mind, your mutilated sense of self to him. You bow as he passes. Not out of loyalty, but because everyone bows. It is what bodies trained in Versailles do. In time, you will leave. Maybe you'll be sent to a regional court. Maybe you'll become a secretary to some aging marquise. Maybe you'll marry a girl who never asks about your past. You'll smile at parties. You'll raise glasses. You'll tell stories of the Sun King's golden age. But in quiet hours, when the candles are low and no one is watching, you will remember. What? Boy, running barefoot through the Versailles gardens. A name that no longer belongs to you. A lullaby sung in a language you were forced to forget, and the doll in the attic. Still waiting, epilogue. Versailles. It still stands. Its gold still gleams. Tourists. Now walk the halls where you once cowered. They take photographs. They gasp at the opulence. They listen to guides speak of glory, architecture, the triumph of French civilization. They do not ask about the orphans. They do not see the shadows beneath the chandeliers. They do not know that. Behind every gilded door there was once a child who was polished like silver and bent like iron, and that some of those children broke. But some lived. Some watched. Some remembered, and some like you endured, not because the palace allowed it, but because the human spirit, even when starved and beaten and erased, can still whisper, I was here, I lived, I remember.